Okay, so to go back over what we're doing in our DBQ, I want to remind you that we're trying to answer. Whoop, I moved my picture when I didn't want to. We're trying to answer the question of what made Tenochtitlan a site of encounter. So, what made people from other parts of Mesoamerica want to come to the city of Tenochtitlan, and which is the center of the Aztec Empire? Keep that in mind. That Tenochtitlan is the main city. It's where the king is. It's where the main temple is. It is the heart of the Aztec Empire. So, what made people want to go there? And we're going to be looking at a collection of evidence to try to answer that question. There are two kinds of evidence that we're going to be looking at. The first one is a primary source. So a primary source is something that was created at the time that we're studying that's used to learn about that time. So in this case, it's going to be something that's created by the Aztecs. That's going to be a primary source. It's right there. It's at the time. It's at the location. And it's created to teach you about that civilization, and in this case, about the Aztecs. The other kind of source is a secondary source. And a secondary source is created afterwards. So it's where historians are going to look at the primary sources and they're going to write something or create something about a time period that was in the past. So primary source being stuff that is created at the time being studied. Secondary source is stuff that's created after the time period being studied. And it's important to keep those two things in mind as you're learning, because you need to think about different biases. How might someone in the middle of the Aztecs view the Aztecs versus someone who's removed from that later looking at Aztec culture? It's important to keep in mind. So for our first set of evidence, we're going to be looking at military conquest. So if I scroll down through all of this, this is our first kind of evidence set. So we've got a codex, which is the Codex Mendoza. This is going to be a primary source because this was created by the Aztecs. And we're going to use this to learn about how the Aztecs used conquest to make people want to go to the city of Tenochtitlan. So let me break this down for you a little bit. This is a codex. A codex is where the Aztecs wrote down, it's their record keeping, where they wrote down their history, where they wrote down what happened, and kind of kept track of the tributes, in this case, the tributes that were coming in. So I'm going to read the source right here out loud for you. Just follow along with me. This source is one page from a codex that records the tribute owed by each region to the Aztecs. When the Aztecs conquered a city-state, town, or village, the Aztecs did not take over the government or change the customs. Instead, the Aztecs told the local rulers to be loyal to the empire and send a certain amount of tribute at a certain time to the city of Tenochtitlan. The kind of tribute a town owed depended on its local products, so what it actually made. This codex listed the towns of each area on the left side of the page, and then the right side of the page is what they gave as tribute. So I'm going to break this down a little bit for you. I've got some tools here. Okay. Let's go with a little yellow highlighter. Okay, so this is the actual page of the codex, is this one right here. And then we have a description or like a translation almost of what that codex says. So that's going to be this part right here. Ooh, my line's got a little crazy. But this is kind of the translation of what that codex is all about. Let me make this so the lines disappear a little bit faster. Okay, so on the left side, you have all of the towns that the Aztecs conquered in this area. So these pictures, sorry, I'm not so good at the drawing on here, but these pictures, these are all of the towns that are listed. And if we look over at our kind of translation of that, you're going to see each of the towns that they conquered. So these two parts right here match. Okay, so that's kind of telling us what that part of it is. The next part, let me wait for my line to disappear, is going to be this area. And these are the goods that those towns had to pay the Aztecs for tribute. And that is going to match down here where it says what goods the people paid the Aztecs. So that's going to explain what those hieroglyphs are. So this part matches this part. Okay? So what you're going to do with that information, I'm hoping you got it now, is if you scroll, let me get off that. If you scroll down, you've got 3 questions to answer. And because this is a source that was created by the Aztecs, remember that this is going to be a primary source created by the people being studied. So what did the Aztecs do when they took control of a territory? You might want to pay attention to what it says over here in the, I'm pointing to it, you can't see it, what it says over here in our text, in this part. How did they determine what the tribute would be? Gonna want to look over here, hint, hint, down here, and then give 2 examples of what they paid as tribute, which is going to be this area right here, where the goods that they would pay. All right, pause right here, and I want you to answer those questions. All right, so now hopefully you are an expert in the Codex Mendoza. To be able to use it as evidence, you can't quote from it like you would some of the other texts that I've taught you guys how to get evidence from. But you can describe what you see. And when you have a picture source like this, because this right here is our source, this is our evidence that we're talking about. When you have a picture like that, you can describe what you see as your evidence. So you've got 3 sentence starters right here. We have the Codex Mendoza shows, in the Codex Mendoza, one can find, and the Codex Mendoza is an example of. I want you to choose one of those 3 sentences, and you're going to answer that in this green box right here. So right where it highlighted, you're going to put one of your sentences in. So start with the sentence starter, whichever one you choose, totally fine. Start with the sentence starter, and you're going to copy in that sentence. Okay, I'm going to pause it right here. Write your sentence down. Okay, I want to be able to check in, make sure you're on the right track. So in your Edpuzzle right now, I'm also going to have you type that sentence in, use the whole sentence starter. I want to see the whole thing just so that I can check in and make sure that you are on the right track. All right, we are going to leave our video right here for a minute, and I will see you in the next video for your next direction. All right, bye guys.